The story of the rock music begins almost 20 years ago in 2002. I had been signed by a record label at the age of 21. I was the frontman, songwriter, and guitar player for a band that I had started in high school. By the time I was 22 years old, I had the privilege of touring across the country with amazing artists like Sheryl Crow, the Foo Fighters, Maroon 5, Third Eye Blind, and Ziggy Marley. We also had a few successful songs on the radio, even a #1 Billboard hit. In every practical way, it was a dream come true. When I was 12, I had received Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior through the church I attended then. Initially, I could sense God's call in my life, even at a young age. But then in my early 20s, the grip of music and the possibility of fame and performing started to replace my love of Christ. Additionally, prior to all the success of my band, I had tragically lost my father the night before we were scheduled to play a critical showcase at the Hard Rock in Las Vegas. As an experienced musician and businessman, my dad was the band's manager at the time, but more importantly, he was also my very best friend. With the sudden loss of my dad and the propulsion of success, it's an understatement to say that I had lost myself along the way. Night after night and in city after city, temptations got the best of me until I eventually squelched all desires to love and follow Jesus. Though outwardly all that I had longed for was coming true, inwardly I felt isolated, lost, dark, and afraid. After a 5-month stint on the road, my sister, who had a large role in my faith when I was younger, started to talk to me about a new church she started attending called The Rock. She said, "You should come to church, dude. You look really bad." I laughed it off and said, "I'm not going to church. I'll be struck by lightning." She told me, "No, it's different. It meets at night and the pastor plays drums and you can even smoke out front and they won't say anything about it. Just come, it'll be different." I thought, a church where I can come smoke out front and a pastor who plays drums? I gotta see this. It's hard to explain what happened that night beyond simply saying that Jesus handpicked me for that moment. As I sat in the room, I felt like suddenly a light switch went off in my heart. In that moment, I didn't know all that God had planned for me, but I knew Jesus wanted me to give my heart to Him entirely. I knew I would never be the same. The truth of His grace was like water to my soul. I was new, I was different, I was unconditionally loved, forgiven, and given purpose beyond anything I had ever known. From that moment on, there was a new call in my life. I decided to stop playing with the band that was experiencing so much success, walk away from my record contract, and ask God to help me with my addictions and habits. I had a newfound thirst for Jesus and a passion for this little church in Utah. I had a new longing to help others come to know the grace and love Jesus had lavished on me. Over time, I began to lead worship in this little church and combine my love for Jesus with my love for music. In 2003, I was asked by the pastor to write and record a worship album for our church. I had never written this type of music before, but the one thing I now knew deeply was the grace and love of Jesus in my life. This is when the rock music really began. Almost instantly, God birthed in me a desire, not just to write my own music for the church, but also to encourage other musicians to write their own music too. Knowing the amazing power of music, I could see many different styles attracting many different kinds of people. In my heart was a desire to see the best bands in the world, known for loving Jesus Christ, come out of this little local church in Utah. And over time, by God's grace, we started to see musicians come and learn and write and lead. It's been beautiful. Jesus has combined powerful teachings from the Rock along with our music ministry to bring many former Mormon and LDS people to the saving grace of Jesus Christ. Though incredibly spiritual, Utah is the least evangelical, Bible-believing state in the country. Under 3% of the population are Bible-believing Christians. So many people here long for authentic relationship with Jesus, but have been crushed by a works-based faith. Time and time again, we have seen hundreds, thousands of people walk through our doors and experience the love of God for the first time. There is no other word for it than miraculous. Every week, we are witnesses to lives changed by the power of the gospel. Every week, we hear stories how people have come because they heard about the music, but they stayed because they met Jesus. Over time, our vision for the rock music has expanded to ask the Lord to bring attention to what He is doing, not just in our music ministry, but more importantly, how He is working in Utah. In many ways, we are in a spiritual desert compared to the rest of the U.S. when it comes to people having access to the simple truth of the gospel. There is so much religion here, history and heritage, but so few voices holding out authentic and simple truth of Jesus saving by grace alone. But miraculously, God is making streams in the desert for His people. We as musicians just want to be a part of all that He is doing and all that He will do, making music along the way.